In extreme seriousness, Sid narrates that even with his aim in life being clear, he still has likes and dislikes that are deemed unnecessary by people of purpose. One such liking of his includes a hot spring. So, when he enters the hot spring casually, ready to enjoy the peace, there is already an existence present there. Alexia stares at him dumbfounded and takes a moment to question how he survived, as she hurt him pretty bad when she was mad. Sid mocks her concern after trying to kill him. The two then get into a conversation about why they are here. Sid mentions a friend inviting him there for some event, which must be the goddess's trial since it's a hot topic these days. Alexia is surprised that this guy came all the way to attend an event he doesn't even know about. It is an annual event in which the door of the sanctuary is opened. The fighting ritual has the ghosts of ancient people coming out of the sanctuary and fighting the participants. Alexia tells him he is late if he intends to participate, but Sid has no such intention. Alexia proceeds to narrate how only a few warriors are deemed worthy by the spirits to participate. Alexia also mentions being a guest at that trial, but of course, she has to brag about the fact that she is not there to participate but in an investigation. The Archbishop of the cathedral had been murdered, and she was here to investigate him due to the unsavory rumors about him. She stops bragging as this information has not yet been made public. As the trial starts, Sid sits in the audience ready to just observe the trial, whereas Alexia and Rose are important guests in the event. As the event is introduced, Alexia glares at the acting Bishop Jack, who was hosting because of the meeting they had a while back. He had decided to conceal the audit by not allowing Alexia to investigate the matter, wanting the matters of the church to be dealt with by the church only. He tells her he would personally write to the king about it, so she does not need to intervene in the smooth running of the trial and sit back and enjoy. Since this attitude of Jack is highly suspicious, Alexia wants to get back to his father and order the audit again under the Crimson Knights. But she is also aware that all the evidence will be wiped off if she leaves the place. The matter becomes conflicting for her, as if she goes back, the crime will become foolproof, and if she investigates on her own, the relations between the royal kingdom and divine teachings will be affected. Her thoughts of not liking Jack are interrupted by another subject she dislikes. This is Natsume, the writer who we know as Beta from Shadow Garden. Alexia finds her sudden fame and finesse in writing too unrealistic and wonders how that happened. Beta suddenly cuts off praise from the crowd to Alexia and side-eyes her, clearly showing the dislike is well reciprocated. While Alexia finds her fame suspicious, Beta doesn't like Alexia due to her clinging to Sid and forcing a relationship with him while she is the one who is compatible with Sid. Alexia stomps on Beta's foot and keeps pressing despite her dislike. Rose stands behind them, gracefully waving at her followers. As the sanctuary is opened and the trials begin, Sid sips on his drink, bored of how incapable these people are. He feels a little on edge, wanting to show them what skills and power are, but decides to stick to his worthless background character. After being bored the whole day seeing people lose to the spirits, he awaits the event to be over. The next person is announced, and Sid thinks about how boring and background character-y that name is. Poor guy is so invested in being a background character that it took him longer than others to realize his name was being announced. Sid wonders what to do if he goes out to fight and some spirit worthy of his match pops up. Everyone will get suspicious, and if he runs away, he'll be expelled from the academy, becoming a disgrace to his sister. So, he decides to go for the third best option, confusing everyone. A glow of light goes off in the sky to make a classy entry of none other than Shadow. Everyone is confused as Shadow appears in the middle of the stadium. Jack is amused that Shadow is going to be humiliated after claiming to be so strong. But to literally everyone's shock, his sanctuary call is answered by the Witch of Calamity, Aurora. She's been known by few to have rained chaos and destruction on the world. Jack thinks Shadow is doomed now, but Alexia points out that Aurora was chosen as a compatible opponent by the goddess, which means Shadow's powers match the one who destroyed the world. Shadow and Aurora face each other with content smiles on their faces. The two have a common ground of taking battles as a conversation, fighting with patience, calmness, yet chaos. Aurora dances on her feet, suddenly creating an intricate pattern of attacks that will hurt Shadow if he touches them, but to everyone's dismay, not even a single attack managed to touch Shadow. After dodging around for a while, Shadow thinks of how he enjoyed the little conversation with Aurora, whom he referred to as Violet due to her eyes. But he bids her goodbye and launches his first and final attack, making the patterns as well as the artist disappear. In simpler terms, it is something that nobody can believe. Shadow 1 against the spirit of the Witch of Calamity. Sid takes his dramatic leave to increase the aura of confusion. Behind him, the sanctuary gate suddenly opened, showing Sid passed the goddess's trial and got accepted. Sid stands afar, amused at the mysterious aura he created back in the stadium. He is sure that everyone must have forgotten about the background character Sid. His amusement is disturbed by a gate appearing to the sanctuary, but being the unbothered person he is, Sid jumps away at different locations to avoid the door. But it keeps following his trail. Sid looks at it for a moment and decides to give it a look rather than letting it follow him to his inn. The doors open in the stadium as well. Bishop Jack Nelson narrates to the princesses about this not happening before and wants everyone out of the stadium and away from it. The open gate. A little commotion makes them look back, only to find Shadow Garden has taken over the entire stadium and gotten rid of the guards without a noise. Alpha tells the princess to not meddle in something that is not their concern and proceeds to enter the sanctuary with Delta. Epsilon interacts with Nelson about coming with him into the sanctuary. He tells them they are not going to be able to do anything there, but Epsilon mentions focusing on what they find in there. Alexia looks at Alpha, recalling her outsmarting Iris, while Beta pretends to be scared and trapped, making her fellows cringe at her dramatics. Nelson calls one of his smartest guards to come kill Epsilon, but it only takes her mere attacks to get rid of him. The Shadow Garden takes Beta and Nelson with them into the sanctuary, asking the princesses to not enter, but Alexia jumps into the door when it is closing, making Rose follow too at the last moment. Alpha sighs at Alexia, coming in but lets it go, thinking they should know some facts too. As they walk in the sanctuary, the real truth about the past is buried. They come across the statue of the hero Oliver, which is very different than what was shown to the world. Alpha mentions having a grasp of the truth behind the cult of Diablos and the fact that hero Oliver is a girl whose face closely resembles none other than Alpha herself. Nelson mentions Alpha being a possessed elf, but incompatible, so she should have been dead. Epsilon points out that Nelson knows about the true history and about them being tortured with the excuse of being possessed. Alpha mentions knowing the truth behind who they call possessed as well and exposing the truth behind the church's saint play. Rose is confused about all this, to which Alpha responds that there may be more to the agenda of the cult than just bringing back the demon Diablos, so they should go see the truth with their own eyes. Alpha then turns away and opens a door, which Nelson is surprised she managed to do. She tells them there was once a huge battle here leading to the loss of many lives, and then the memories of the battle and the grudges were sealed away and trapped here. Alpha walks inside to start a journey into ancient memories. Sid walks into a white room where Aurora is sitting. He greets her nicely, and she tells him that even though her memories are vague, she thinks he is the strongest person she ever fought with. Sid asks how to leave there since she just fought with him, but Aurora tells him she never recalls leaving. She just woke up and was there. Sid decides to go back the way he came from to find a way out, but Aurora stops him, making him notice she is trapped in a straitjacket and would like to be free. Sid frees her, which she mentions maybe after 1,000 years. She tells Sid they can work together as she knows that this sanctuary is a memory prison built on ancient battles, and if they reach its magical core and destroy it, she will be free. Sid asks if it's only her who will be free. She tells him she'd like to think that, but everything will disappear once the core is destroyed, so he'll be able to leave too. She tells Sid that they are close to the core since their magic is being absorbed. But Sid does not worry since he can break a few things with his physical strength. Aurora jokes about being a damsel in distress, but Sid does not find that damsel distressed at all. She mentions vanishing into nothing once she is free after Sid asks her what she'll do. Everyone with Alpha enters Oliver's memories of the cult gathering orphan children and treating them as guinea pigs for their experimentations. Most of the children died, but only a handful of girls survived, which were labeled as the possessed ones. Sid and Aurora walk inside memory and come across a girl who looks like little Aurora. She says it must be a coincidence and tells Sid they need to end the memory to proceed. She then sits in front of the crying little girl, telling her crying won't change anything, and slaps her hard across the cheek. Sid calls it harsh, making Aurora accept it was her anyway. A glass breaks suddenly, probably signifying the end of this memory. Olivier was one of the children deemed compatible with Diablo's cells. The cult was performing experiments to induce the demon cells upon children. Nelson clenches his teeth at the truth being revealed by Alpha. Nelson tells everyone that it was to make someone powerful to fight the demon, but Alpha calls it an excuse. Alpha tells them that even though all this seems real, this may be half the truth since memories fade with time. In fairy tales, everyone knows Olivier got the task to kill Diablos once she matured, but in reality, She was given the job to extract more cells from Diablos. Nelson calls it all a lie, but goes ignored. Alpha continues that Olivier obeyed their orders thinking achieving them would mean peace for the world, but the cult seem to have more on their minds. The memory vanishes, bringing them all to the battlefield where the cult tried to fight the demon. They used ancient artifacts to immobilize the left arm and extract its cells to create a little force. They managed to prepare some pills, which Alexia saw Xenon have back when abducted. Alpha tells them that this had strong side effects, which the cult didn't want, so they all moved to the next memory. The relic where the arm was stored by the cult was revealed, but the bigger reality unveiled was Nelson performing experiments in the past on the arm. He calls Alpha a low-life descendant of the possessed elf, but she is unbothered and proceeds to tell them about the pill they created that would grant them endless immortality. Alexia is surprised that immortality has been their aim. The elves make him spill out the name of the drug, the beads of Diablos. Alpha points out that the beads have two major flaws. One is that they need to be taken at regular intervals throughout life, once a year, and the second is that they can only be produced in the quantity of 12 per year. This is why the biggest organization of the cult, the Knights of Rounds, only contains 12 members and not a single more. This is why the cult still needs to perfect the beads. Nelson finally accepts being the 11th member of the Knights of Rounds, but before he can say anything else, Delta stabs him from behind and throws him down the height into the water. Epsilon tells her she wasn't supposed to do it yet, making Delta panic and apologize to Alpha. Alpha reminds him to be careful and always remember to be sure if her prey is dead. As if on cue, Nelson appears out of the water, breaking the memory and bringing some of them to an all-white area while the others are separated somewhere else. Alpha, Beta, Delta, Alexia, and Rose face Nelson, who makes multiple illusions of himself ready to give them a message to not mess with the cult and their sanctuary.